Hi everyone, Amada here. My region is Asia, and I decided to do my research on Chinese censorship simply because I find it so fascinating, especially because within the past year I transcended from being completely against it to now a little bit more in favor. It's even scary for me to say, and that's why I want to further explore this with y'all. I've been exposed to different perspectives, arguments, and evidence that show how censorship in China has had a positive impact. So today I want to explore how Chinese cyber censorship has benefited its globalization. So in order to learn about the significant value of the Great Firewall of China, we'll dive a little deeper into how it's possible for a different internet value to compete with a Western liberal democracy and maybe even be better. So in this case study, we'll analyze how cyber Chinese censorship works and how it has transcended throughout the past years, and especially with WeChat. As we know, it started as a messaging app and now it does it all. But we'll talk about it coming up. And then how do citizens maintain that trust under Chinese hegemony? How does that play out? Then we'll end it with the positive and the negative globalization. Negative meaning it's controlled. So is it really negative? So China. The People's Republic of China is located in East Asia and is governed by the Communist Party in the capital of Beijing. It has jurisdiction over 22 provinces, 5 autonomous regions, 4 municipalities, and 2 special administrative regions, Hong Kong and Macau. Mandarin Chinese is its official language and is one of the most spoken languages in the world. And the People's Republic of China also has the largest population in the world, which is estimated to reach 1.4 billion this year. So the Chinese Communist Party has ruled the country since 1949, tolerating no opposition and sometimes even dealing brutally with dissent. The country's most senior decision-making body is the Standing Committee of the Politburo, heading a pyramid of power which tops every village and workplace. The current president is Xi Jinping, and he took office in March of 2013. And China's internet population just passed a major milestone. According to the Chinese government, 802 million people are now actively using the internet. That is 57.7% of the population. The data was published by the China Internet Network Information Center, the CNNIC, which is a branch of the country's Ministry of Industry and Information. So just to give you an idea, the United States has an estimated 300 million internet users.
Now, there's no question China has been trying to crack down on the internet. Good luck. That's sort of like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall.
So although this was in the year 2000, this is something I would have said about a year ago because I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it was effective or beneficial, but here we are. So to further understand how successful Chinese censorship has been and its globalization, we're going to talk about WeChat, which is a multi-purpose messaging, social media, and mobile payment app developed by Tencent. And it was first released in 2011, and by 2018, it's the world's largest standalone mobile apps, and it has reached over 1 billion monthly active subscribers. So like I said earlier, it started as a messaging app in 2011, but now WeChat can do it all. You can send money, you can pay utility bills, you can rent a bicycle, get a taxi, buy flights, look up movies, get a hotel. So pretty much WeChat knows how much money you have, what friends you have, how many friends you have, where you live, where you like to travel, and what you're doing at this precise moment.
If you go to sites like Twitter, Google, and Facebook, this is what you get.
So as you could see, you can't really access the social media we use here, but you can still use their own form of social media. People are still able to be cyber connected in China. So what does this mean? China is not stopping its citizens from being cyber connected, and they just simply give you different options. And in fact, LinkedIn is allowed so that their citizens are able to develop and succeed professionally. That is not to say that there isn't censorship in the app. There is, but for example, these are some of the terms and phrases that your profile could get flagged down or even blocked for. And as you can see here, I mean, it's things like kill Xi Jinping or kill Uncle Xi. And this just shows, I mean, the list is never ending, and there are just so many terms that aren't allowed and shouldn't be said regardless. But it's just interesting to see how it requires a sophisticated capability to keep out harmful ideas without damaging the nation's global connectivity. China has achieved this. It can communicate with the outside world, meanwhile Western opinion cannot easily penetrate as ideological tools. Which brings me to my next point, which is trust. Citizens' trust under Chinese hegemony. This is so important to me because it was one of the biggest misconceptions that I had. Thinking, oh wow, it must suck for them to not have Instagram and Twitter to use all the time, when in reality they don't care.
I know we are being suppressed, but it doesn't really affect me. Sometimes I feel bad for people, but there is nothing I can do to change things.
So, as you can see, over 80% of the population in China trusts their government, comparing to an alarming 30% in the US, which has probably gotten worse in the past year. As you can see, this is a graphic from 2017, 2018, and this is why China has been relatively successful in the past years. Citizens trust their government, and if their government is saying this topic shouldn't be talked about, this phrases shouldn't be mentioned because X, Y, and Z, then they don't. And so with cyber sovereignty and citizens trust, we get to globalization and how it has become just easier overall for China to get to where they are today. So now that we're at China's globalization, here's a great example to highlight how WeChat's national impact is operating at an international scale. So Apple hasn't been doing so well with their new iPhone sales in China. That is because WeChat undermines the iPhone's appeal. WeChat does everything from e-payments to chatting to games, and because WeChat functions the same on Androids and iOS, the underlying operating system becomes much less important on iPhones. And this is just one example of how WeChat just becomes the overpowering device or approach to connect to the rest of the world. So now, a quick recap. We discussed Chinese censorship and how cyber sovereignty plays a role. Then we talked about citizens' trust and how this is critical for this type of system to operate, and how this has led to the success in their globalization. Many young people in China have no idea what Google, Twitter, or Facebook even is, which is creating a gulf with the rest of the world. Accustomed to their homegrown apps and online services, many of them aren't interested in knowing what has been censored online, allowing Beijing to build an alternative value system that, again, as evidence, competes with Western liberal democracy. And I'd like to leave you with that and just a few questions to keep in mind. The focus of the research, which is censorship and how it's benefiting globalization in China, and not freedom of speech or the First Amendment as you answer these questions. So, question number 1. Should those who value internet freedom be concerned about China's attempt to influence cyberspace? And do you think it's possible to achieve this type of cyber sovereignty in the US today? Would it be beneficial towards our globalization as well? And now question number 2. So American corporations can be expected to be guided by moral considerations, and the US government can't tell American companies what to do. That's an asymmetric advantage for Beijing. So how can Western government defend their private sectors from Chinese political pressure, should they even try? And that is all. I hope I highlighted some interesting points, and I'm really looking forward to your responses. Thank you all.